Welcome back to this week's High Ticket Tune-Up. I'm Sean, and in this video, we're going to show you 4 minor nose indicators to look for during a sales call. Stay tuned. What's happening, sales ascenders? Sean here, back at you with another High Ticket Tune-Up. Today's Thursday. I hope you've had a great week. We're coming into the end of this one, so I hope you've closed a lot of deals this week. I know summer has been kicking off a little bit here, and so just want to make sure that you are staying focused. We're going to dive back into the body language series, going to part 2 about the nose. This is going to be a little bit shorter because there's only 4 minor tips that I want to share today that I think are going to be really, really valuable. Don't forget to like the video and share it with other people who care about it. And if you're watching, make sure and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stuff coming your way. Okay, so what are we talking about with the nose? Yesterday, we got into all things touching, what the nose actually means, how it works. Today, we're going to focus on 4 minor things we got to work on. So number 1, we want to look at nostril flaring. I know you've all seen this one. This is a major one. When people flare their nostrils, what does it mean when you're in a sales call and you're speaking with a prospect? Well, this is usually done before a physical event. Now, a physical event could mean a sporting event. It could mean something they have to actually do in their business where they'd have to get up and go talk to another person. It can signify anger or a frustration. And so we just want to look for this. This is another one of those moves that if you watch very closely, it's really nice when you're working on Zoom because you can actually watch replays that will help you to start recognizing these things. I typically will watch my own sales calls at least maybe once a week or once every other week to just watch my prospect's face throughout a sales call. And as I do it when I'm watching a replay, then as I start to get into a sales call, I can start to recognize it. And so that's one of the things that I share with some of our members and even our students in our high ticket stuff. I talk about like watch your own sales calls in a replay. I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, but it's so valuable. And just watch your prospect, watch your own body language. Like you'll learn a ton of things about yourself and you will improve your game very, very significantly. But when we're looking for nose flaring, it's important to just watch that. So it could be just like a quick 1 or it could be 2. If it's multiple, like you see in this GIF here, this means typically they're going to be going into some sort of a physical event. And next, let's talk about the Philtrum. The Philtrum is this little piece right between your, like right here, okay? A couple of things about this. It's the groove right above your upper lip. So your upper lip is right here. So it's like it starts at the base of your nose and it runs down just a little bit. When stressed, prospects will either pluck it or scratch it or pull it. You've seen people do this before. Doing this, right? Sometimes they touch it, they stress it, they pluck it, they pull it, and that's typically an indicator of stress. So if you ever see someone go like that or like this or like that, or they rub right here, that usually means there's a little bit of stress. In a sales conversation, what you want to do in that case is be like, I don't know if that quite settled with you very well. Like, can we just talk about that? Like whatever it was that you were just talking about. And I always stop and pattern interrupt. Doing this a lot during the sales call is okay because what it's causing your prospect to do is to get out all those little micro emotions. A lot of times when you're selling a prospect, if you don't give them the opportunity to vent, right? They need like these little ventilation ports. And so by giving that moment of pattern interrupting the whole flow of the conversation, be like, that one didn't quite feel right to me. When you see an indicator, right? Whenever you see an indicator with your prospect, just stop the conversation and do a speed check. See if your prospect's okay. Did that settle well with you? Does that make sense? Like those types of questions keep them engaged. It also gives your prospect the ventilation needed because if there is something stressful, you can deal with it right then and there. This is when people say they make mountain out of a molehill. Well, if you give your prospect these little ventilation ports, now you're dealing with molehills and you don't have to wait till the end to deal with climbing over a mountain all at once. It gives you the ability to squash it or nip it in the bud, as they say, just dealing with it right then and there. And the way to get better at this is to study your prospect's body language in your own sales calls, because that's the ways you're going to be, or with your team. And then a very constructive sales training piece, if you have a team that's doing sales, is you watch their calls, write out a sheet. In fact, what we do is we have our 7-point selling system and we have a document. And so for each sales call that I ever watch for one of our students, I'll go through each of the 7 spots. I'll say, you did it or you didn't do it. And here's how you could integrate it into this conversation during the call. And then now post call, how do you recover? Those are very valuable for a lot of our students because they're like, oh, that's what I got to do. And then they have a clear direction on how to go and actually close a deal, which is valuable, right? So the Philtrum is this little piece here. A little pro tip. Sometimes you'll see kind of like the duck face, like this, duck face. Some people's tongues will slip in front of their teeth and they'll push on the back side of the Philtrum to relieve some stress. So that's also good to know. Okay. Let's go on. So number 3, sneaking a nose touch. So when you're in a conversation and people start to kind of sneak their hands up here, or they're putting their hands underneath here, and all of a sudden they go like this, and it's very casual and it's very sneaky. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about sneaking a nose touch. Very important to watch somebody doing that, because when they do that, this is what it means. A slight rubbing with an index finger indicates tension is being masked. Again, tension is being masked. So we never want our prospect to ever have tension other than the tension that we want to have on them, right? So unneeded, unnecessary tension, great indicator. Just see somebody kind of slightly rubbing it or just rubbing their nose just a bit. This is a definite time to stop the conversation and ask. Like most of these body language moves in the face specifically, very important that you understand what they mean and how to navigate the conversation as you're having it. And so when you see this, it's okay to work it into the conversation very slightly. It's like, man, did that seem stressful to you? Or is there tension on you right now? Those are the questions I ask with this one. When I see people rubbing their nose, I ask about tension because I know rubbing indicates tension. And then they'll say, oh, actually, yeah, it does. And oh, could you explain a little bit more? Boom. Now the prospect's talking, you're listening. Remember, 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them in proportion in a sales conversation. Very important. So when you see rubbing, ask about tension. Very simple. This is typically common in those who are in control but under stress. You will see this tremendous amount of time if you're in the corporate world selling B2B enterprise level, where you're dealing with boardroom sales, where you have to know all of the cast of characters within the whole organization. I did this for years. This one, you will always see a nose touch being snuck in there by kind of that middle manage, upper manage, right below the C-level suite players. Those guys rub their noses all the time, and it's such an easy cue to just be like, yo, that seemed really tense for you. Are you okay? Oh, well, actually, I'm so glad you asked. Here's what, boom, right? You got it. Now you know exactly their real problem, and you can actually help them navigate, find clarity so they can buy your stuff. Very simple to do. And again, yeah, so just common in kind of that upper level, but it's those people that have a lot of control, have a lot of responsibility, but are just under a tremendous amount of stress. Those are the people that are going to be rubbing their noses a lot. Again, it applies to the smaller business solopreneur with the entrepreneur or the influencer of the entrepreneur, like a spouse. They'll be the ones that are kind of doing this because they know they are stressing for their partner, kind of a thing. So just good to look for that, right? And then let's talk about this one. Rapid nose inhaling. Obviously, you can see the little squirrel here. I think he's breathing through his nose and his mouth at the same time. But we want to talk about rapid nose inhaling as the last minor tip that you want to know about today. What does this mean? Typically, you'll see people do this. Like, actually, let me come back and show you because it's better when you see it in person. I'll just make my face a little bigger. When you see people go like, or they don't have to do it too many times, but it's when they're about to go and deliver bad news. So when you see somebody doing this, when you're just observing across the room, it's when bad news might be coming. So just be mentally prepped for that. If you're in a prospecting conversation, you can see them start to breathe faster. Look for their chest to go up and down. And that will tell you like something of significant importance is coming your way. Also, when they will start to do this, they'll start to breathe faster when something is said by you to them as a prospect that bothers them. So watch patterns, look for these things, because when you understand the patterns, remember, nose means tension. Rapid inhaling means something's bothering them. So it's very good to be able to quickly call to them saying, man, I feel like that bothered you, and just play like a dummy, right? There's another sales lesson that I talk about all the time is act like a dummy on purpose. Got a big, long story about it. I'll cover another high ticket tune-up with that one. But the idea is when you see these things, act naive, act like a dummy on purpose. Right? That's the true play of a sales professional. Sales is a play, Broadway play put on by a psychiatrist. You have to be the psychiatrist. And so you need to be able to play into the role of, even though it's not a big deal, if you see somebody, starting to breathe fast, you're like, hey, I'm sorry, did something I say just bother you? It's okay to ask those questions because they'll be like, oh, yes, totally. Let me talk about it. Boom. Now it's a molehill. It's not a mountain at the end of the deal where you have to try to overcome objections. Nobody can overcome objections except your prospect. Like that's the true thing. Your job as a sales professional, sales ascender is to simply give them clarity and guide them down the path that's going to serve their business the best and serve them so they can make impact. And when you have that philosophy, all the salesiness just floats out of the conversation and you're going to win most every time. Lastly, if somebody's breathing very quickly, you'll see this majority of the time in little kids. kids, so like your kids, if they start breathing fast, it means they might lie to you. So just be aware that it could be a lie coming, it could be bad news coming, or they've heard something that really bothers them. That's typically the three things when somebody's breathing quickly that you have to be aware of, so you can actually go back and question them. And with that said, my friends, you've just been tuned up here on Thursday today. I hope it was valuable. Don't forget to smash the like button, share this to someone who cares, and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to keep bringing the heat. I know I've been getting a ton of feedback on how valuable this body language sequence and series is. So with that said, you've just been tuned up, and don't forget, there's a sales ascender inside of each and every one of you. We'll see you next time.